Hey everyone, Monday, December 5th, and it's time to go to work on music. So, I missed an upload the last 2 days ago. My cameras were out of batteries, so I did practice, but it was short, maybe like 30 minutes or something like that, and then I took yesterday off. And last couple days have been a bit of a struggle, just trying to stay on track and trying to keep the right balance in my life, and just experiencing some doubt and some negative emotions and stuff, and just a lot of stress. Um, so, without going into too much detail, I'm just doing my best to stay grounded and stay on track with time management. And honestly, I think time management is the most important skill as a successful person. Whether that, I mean, it's very important, I think, as an artist for me, and I know, and for other artists I know, because there are a lot of logistics to manage, especially if you're doing it all on your own from the beginning and you don't have a manager and you don't have a label, or you don't have a promotion company or something like that who are handling a lot of that other stuff. But even if you have that, then communicating with all those people becomes a challenge. So there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be demands on your time, unless you're just going to go be a monk in the woods, and then even then, you have to deal with your inner self and inner battles. So um, I'm just really working that muscle right now, really trying to take a hard and honest look at my time management skills and strategy and habits, and just make sure that I'm optimizing those things, because this next year is about to kick in relatively soon, and I know there's going to be a lot going on. I've taken a break from socializing the last few weeks, and so that's given me a lot more time to work. But then, the danger with that is then you think like, oh, I'll have time to do this later, and so then it's easy to put things off, and that is not good. So I sort of noticed myself going down that path, and I just want to nip that in the bud as quickly as possible. So I'll share more of that as I get into the session, but in the interest of being expeditious with time, let's get to work. So today we're going to do a little bit of online class stuff. We're going to do a little bit of guitar work, and then we're going to save as much time as possible to run the set for that's coming up. So I've got all the arrangements locked up, and all I have to do is start to put together a couple cover tunes, or I don't have to do that, but I want to do that, and then we're done, and that's going to be a big moment. So the goal is to be totally done by the end of next week and have the show completely performable and just locked up and ready to rock. So it's going to be a big couple weeks, and then we're going to take a nice break and move on to some other exciting stuff. So let's get to it. Okay, really interesting start of a video about writing in more concrete terms instead of just using abstract ideas in your writing, to really use objects that are related to those ideas. So one example the presenter is using is talking about um, an idea like nutrition, and instead of just talking about nutrition completely in the abstract, you use real things like apples or bread to um, paint the picture a little more vividly for the reader. Otherwise, it's easy to get lost in abstraction. So I think that's really interesting. I'm going to start thinking about that in my songwriting. For now, I'm going to move on to some business research. Wow, great blog post by Michael Beinhorn on his blog, How to Save Popular Music. And I just finished up the Reframing the Recording Paradigm article, and it kind of peters out at the end. I think it could have used some concluding remarks, maybe re-emphasizing his main points, but the big takeaway I got from it is, for me personally, he puts a lot of emphasis on planning, pre-production and pre-production, and a lot of that centers around getting the arrangements right, rehearsing the band really, really well. And it just hit me, and I think some of us tend to think about the mixing and mastering stage, and maybe even the recording stage, is where you make things sound really good. But actually, the rehearsal and writing stage is when you make things sound really good. And the better the source material sounds, the easier everything else is after that. Everything else hopefully just falls into place if you do your job out front. So of course there's a limit to that. You don't want to rehearse things forever and then never get anything done. But at the same time, you don't just want to go in and record a bunch of crappy material really well and then mix it really well and then have this really shiny thing that kind of sucks, you know? So there's a balance there, and it's definitely a difficult balance to strike, but it's got me thinking a lot about preparation. And his next blog post, Deconstructing a Pop Song, is already amazing. I'm only halfway through, and I'm stoked on it. So I'll share more about that tomorrow. For now, let's do some guitar work. Alright, end of a reasonable session. Like I mentioned earlier, I sort of shot myself in the foot a bit with the timing. And I didn't stick to my timing plan that I laid out at the beginning of the session. So I'm going to look into that first thing tomorrow and just make sure that I make some good choices around that, correct any errors if needed. But I think I've just gotten used to longer practice sessions, so now if I only have like a couple hours or an hour and a half, um, I just sort of get into the groove, and I've spent an hour and I thought it was 20 minutes, so it's not the worst thing. And I just did get some work on the show done. I didn't set up all the gear, I just like visualized the song and stepped myself through it mentally, which, if you don't know, is actually extremely, extremely valuable and effective as far as learning goes, and integrating and changing mistakes, things like that, smoothing things out. I mean, it's probably not as good as actually playing it, but it's significantly better than nothing. So don't be afraid to do that if you're short on time. Um, yeah, main takeaway from today is just managing the rest of my life as well as I possibly can. I think once the session starts, things, for the most part, tend to go well. It's just making sure that that time doesn't get corrupted or, just impinged upon by too many other things in life. And of course, some things are going to come up, but many things are very controllable, and I just frankly wasn't doing a good enough job controlling that stuff. So it's a good mistake. I'll try not to make it again, and I'm going to put some systems in place to make sure that that happens. So hope you guys are out there grinding towards your goals, having a great Monday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.